Alrighty then, in the continuing how to build a police motorcycle series, as I mentioned in previous videos, we get right down into the wiring, and what we've got here is an original Yamaha left-hand handlebar control that normally would operate indicators, so left and right there, the horn, screen, lower and raised, which is on the right, and headlight, high beam, low beam, high beam, or normal beam and high beam. And then on the back, the normal function would be the push to pass high beam function, so a momentary switch that will trigger the high beams. Now what New South Wales Police did, not sure why, but anyway, that's what they did, is they used this function, the push to pass function, as the push to talk function in the radio. So they've taken this pair of wires, red, white on the left and yellow on the right. Obviously that one, the yellow, corresponds to down here. Let me just grab the light. Apologies, you don't need to see my shoes. But that corresponds to this yellow that I identified in the previous video. That's this guy here. And that's what's been cut from the bottom of that block. Right there, for the camera will focus. Right there, that yellow poking out. So that end will join up to, I can use 12 hands here. There we go. That end of the Deutsch plug, which has been added by Fleet Services for communication, and obviously that runs down the bike back to the radio, which has yet to be fitted, but we will reinstate this. That end runs up there so that the push to talk function from the handlebar control runs straight down through this yellow wire and then into the radio equipment via that Deutsch plug. So that's problem number one identified, or solution number one identified. This is the stock wiring harness connector for the handlebar. You can even see the remains of the original yellow wire just pushed up inside there. So that's function number one. Function number two, which let me get some light on the matter here. So that explains this guy. That's that one. We also have a splice here where the red-white from the other side of this, you can see that runs down there like I showed you before. That same red-white down there is also spliced into an earth here. That so when you push that button, it grounds out and completes the circuit. So that one is easily explained. The final mystery is this red-yellow pair. Obviously it was just an originally one wire straight the way through, and they've used a brass splice, if it will focus, brass splice to put in another wire. You can just see the tail, the wire remnants where that wire's been cut off. Now what I think that is, because this is running into the horn function, I think that is the trigger for this wire, which we have remnants of. So we have a green and purple pair that run off the top of the horn. That's just the stock horn with a double connector, so leaving the civilian honking function, honk honk, or beep beep, enabled. And I think what they do is that same function then triggers one of these wires to connect here. I believe it's the purple, but I'll verify that before I connect anything. And the green goes somewhere else. That may also go to earth. But I would also assume that that has to run back to the harness somehow. So somehow it's got to end up here in order to tell that brain what to do in order to cycle to the next sound, a wail, a yelp, a siren, a bullhorn, whatever it is. So I suspect one of those, as I say, is grafted onto there for the trigger, so that enables that function. So you go honk, and it will trigger both the civilian horn and then trigger the brain over here, the Sputnik unit, to change tones. Now I will find out tomorrow. I have some vestigial wiring, so bits and pieces like this from a previous harness. Also, and it sounds a bit hippy-dippy when I say it, but when you look at the way wires lay naturally, you can kind of follow the contour, like the pair of wires that I'm showing you here connected to each other. You can see that they curl up and sort of fit up there, right? They're actually cable tied together because this wiring supports the powered glove box, as does that. That's the latch mechanism as well. When I look at the same thing for this horn function, we have a stretch of wire. Let me just move this out of the way. With a stretch of wire that's pretty straight. There is a curve, a gentle curve into it, then a corner, if you will, and then a fairly sharp curve like this. So what I suspect is it runs like this. So the gentle curve is this bit to get it onto the harness, like that. And there's actually a cable tie mark. It's a little bit difficult to see right there. So I suspect it runs this way, up inside the harness, up over here, and then underneath all this mess and around following the rest of the harness here. So I think there's probably 2 entry points into this harness. I think there's the bit that I just showed you, and then I think this cable goes back up here. You can see the also witness marks right there, which corresponds with that clamp. That's this one right here, that's a factory clamp. So that's where I suspect it sort of ends up going back through there somewhere, something like that. But it will connect, I suspect, to this. So there you go. It's a bit of hippy-dippy, follow the cable witness mark type things, but it does serve me pretty well. But this will be a project for tomorrow. Obviously, we're going to reinstate this connection, resolder down here. So we've got that cable end that I showed you earlier back where it needs to be, right there. Got the soldering iron out. We'll put some heat shrink around that and do it properly. That will reinstate that function, and then it's simply a question of decoding where those go and how that corresponds to our purple and green. So there you go, all to play for, lots of fun. Anyway, this is part of the thrill of doing this. It's the reverse engineering sort of detective work, if you will, from figuring out where all this stuff went together. While we're on the subject of electrical work, I've reinstated all of this, so that's now safely and securely all resoldered in there. So all those wires that I showed you in the previous video are now secure, soldered, heat shrunk, I believe that's the term, and ready for testing. So that's the original connector, the original adapter right there, now on a vestigial piece of wire that had been cut off, that was that long, which has been soldered onto that light head right there. So we're in good shape. That's approximately the original length as well, which is really good. So we're not going to be struggling with any cables. And because it's got all the correct pinouts in it, obviously I triple check all that stuff. Just as we got with those side marker intersection lights and the hideaway LEDs in the rear, we're now closing in on having the front lights and hopefully the rear pole light back there, back to the land of the living. So also, once we're tested, we put all the watertight seals around it. So that is new heat shrink. That's around the base of the connector to try and keep moisture out. We have another set up there ready to go. So once we've tested all of this, we'll put all of that connection back together, make sure that's all done properly. Sorry, it's not focusing very well. So all of this will be covered up as well. We don't leave any of that exposed. But we'll double, triple, quadruple check all of that. And then we'll put a battery to it and see if we can't get some life back into the front and rear lights. So there you go. Lots and lots of stuff going on, plus all the other videos. So chuck us a subscribe and a like. I think I'm right in saying, I think we're the only shop doing this in the entire Southern Hemisphere. And there's a lot of time and resources that go into accurately troubleshooting, making sure that we reinstate everything per the original spec, so that it's safe, reliable, and is exactly what would have been used back in the day, which back in the day in this case is 2008. So there you go. Quick update, more to come tomorrow. It's a public holiday here tomorrow, so hooray for that. But I'll be at the shop working, and we'll have an update on that 2011 Yamaha FJR1300 that has been completely brought back to life. So tank recovered. Speaking of tank recoveries, we have that one on its final pass through. There's a separate video series about using CRC Evapo Rust inside the tank. I posted the 4th edition, I think, or the 4th part of that series earlier today. So this is the last iteration. We now have liquid up to about there, I would say. So we're just letting all of the front of the tank de-rust as well. But so far, this is looking absolutely amazing. So stay tuned for all that. Plenty more to come. Lots and lots of police bike stuff. We've got all the other toys like the BMW, the Z650 in the back, Z1000 right there. I will catch you in the next video. Cheers, everyone.